Assalamu alaikum. Um, my name is Sister Salma. I'm here to do the introduction today and host you guys on another episode of Breaking Fast live with NIA Masjid. Um, a few announcements before we begin. The first is concerning the drive-through iftar that we hosted today. Alhamdulillah, it was a amazing success. Within the first hour or less, all of the food was served out, and a lot of people really benefited from it. And it was kind of like piloted today, but inshallah, we will come back with more drive-through iftars with more food, and there will be more details to come in the future concerning that. So please keep watching the website and the social media and the YouTube where we're doing constant announcements with every live. The second one is please save the date. The NIA fundraiser is Saturday, May 9th. Brother Ashraf will be on later on tonight with Adhkar, and he can, touch on that a little bit more. Without further ado, I'd like to, start to introduce Sister Suzy Ismail. She is no stranger to our community here at NIA. She has spoken with us and done a lot of youth events. Sister Suzy is the founder and head communication consultant at Cornerstone, a faith-based communication center that focuses on youth, identity, and relationship rebuilding. She previously taught for over 15 years in the communication departments at Rutgers University and DeVry University. Sister Suzy is the author of several books, including Modern Muslim Marriage, 9 to 5, When Muslim Marriage Fails, and other works. She currently serves as an executive officer and director on several nonprofit boards, commissions, and organizations. She is completing her doctorate in human services with a focus on family studies and intervention strategies, and resides in Princeton, New Jersey, with her husband and 3 children. Sister Suzy is here to talk to us today about anxiety and uncertainty, a very timely topic. So I'm going to introduce Sister Suzy now. Assalamu alaikum.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته.
We're
So it's absolutely wonderful to be here with NIA. I know that we're all kind of adjusting ourselves and getting used to a Ramadan of social distancing, where our hearts are still trying to be connected through avenues such as these programs that NIA is putting together, such as a lot of online content, YouTube and Zoom, and all sorts of programs that we're seeing. And as much as it's difficult to experience Ramadan without being able to spend the night in our beloved masajid, alhamdulillah for the bounty of Allah Azza wa Jal in facilitating these other options for us, which may not be the norm or the usual, but alhamdulillah, they are still opportunities for us to connect. So I'm seeing here that my sound may be a bit muffled. I'm wondering if okay, there. Okay, somebody's telling me much better. Okay, good. So I'm glad it is better now. Alhamdulillah. So the topic that I wanted to address today is it has a lot to do with some of the emotions that we're hearing. A lot of our clients at Cornerstone kind of speaking to us about speaking about the difficulties that they're experiencing and what they're going through during this pandemic, and also going through the month of Ramadan in such unusual circumstances at a time where for many of us the month of Ramadan is something that like our heart longs to see again, to connect with. So many of us will constantly throughout the year say, Allahumma ballaghna Ramadan, that, may we live and see another Ramadan, because there's so much blessing in that month, not just from our fasting, from our dhikr, from our remembrance of Allah Azza wa Jal, and from, the spiritual benefits, but also from the communal benefits, the connecting with others, the iftars, the praying in congregation, and missing out on that, not being able to have those types of physical connections. I know that's been difficult for many of us. But it's the pain or the difficulty that we are seeing. It's begun even before the start of Ramadan, and somewhere around mid-March, March 15th, 16th, 17th, when for many of us our lives really changed with the COVID-19, with the effects of the virus, whether it was our children staying home from school, for us not being able to go into work, changes in terms of being able to connect with the elderly, our parents, our grandparents, things of that sort. And a lot of times, with any change in circumstances, our mind and our body has, two different ways of reacting. Many of you are probably familiar from high school biology class with the fight or flight response. That a lot of times in situations of uncertainty or situations of fear, our body tends to respond with either wanting to fight, the adrenaline rush comes in and you feel like you want to dig your heels in and you're going to ride this out and you're going to fight it out, or flight. We can almost collapse internally and feel this sense of wanting to kind of bury our heads, under the covers and just run away. Now, the fight and the flight reaction, they're a very normal process in terms of how the body responds to the stress indicators that enter our minds and our hearts and our bodies when we experience something different. And it's not out of the norm. We can feel a range of emotions within the fight or flight as well. But first, when we look at this from an Islamic perspective, we look to the verse in the Quran from Surah Al-Baqarah, when Allah Azza wa Jal in verse 155 reminds us that surely we will be tested. And what will we be tested with? We will be tested with something of fear, and we will be tested with something of hunger, and we will be tested with loss, with the loss of wealth, and the loss of wives, and the loss of food. And then at the end of the ayah, Allah Azza wa Jal reminds us that there will be glad tidings for those who are patient. وَبَشَّرَ الصَّابِرِينَ. So in this verse, Allah Azza wa Jal is reminding us that we are going to be tested. And the first test that Allah mentions is a test of fear. What is fear? Fear is often the root of anxiety. So a lot of times we see that term anxiety being kind of thrown around. I'm feeling so anxious. I think I have anxiety. A lot of the younger generation with our teens, they'll talk about panic attacks or feeling anxiety. Now, before trying to, go on to WebMD and make like a self-diagnosis, understanding the difference between clinical anxiety and situational anxiety is very important. Because for many of us in this COVID-19 era, throughout this pandemic, we may be experiencing situational anxiety because there is a shift in everything that is familiar to us. And everything that was once familiar now becomes unfamiliar. It becomes difficult to understand and to navigate through. So, situational anxiety can often be a result of fear that exists because we don't know what's going to happen next. We're just not sure. It can result from fear that exists because, our family dynamics may be different. Maybe we're used to, our spouse is always out and we're home, or, our spouse works from home and we're the ones that are out, and now suddenly we're home with our spouses, we're home with our children. And that in itself can be an unfamiliar situation and can be anxiety inducing. It may be that we're single and maybe we're living alone and not being able to connect or go to the masjid or get our kind of community fill from connecting with others. That could be causing difficulty as well for us, and that could be a source of anxiety. So oftentimes anxiety can feel a lot like, kind of like when Winnie the Pooh would talk about the rumbly and his tumbly, feeling a bit of butterflies in the stomach, feeling almost unsettled, just feeling a sense of like being off. Sometimes anxiety can be accompanied by more physical signs, such as the heart rate rapidly increasing. Shortness of breath can often be a sign of anxiety. Physical elements such as, losing appetite, not being able to sleep. All of these could be anxiety. But before we jump to a clinical anxiety diagnosis, understanding that it may be situational as well. And the situational anxiety is often fueled by the uncertainty, by not knowing what's to come, by being worried about the future. Now, when we go back to that ayah in the Quran, we see that Allah Azza wa Jal starts with that we will be tested with fear. That fear, that anxiety, that uncertainty, that not being sure what's going to happen next. And then we're also reminded that we'll be tested with hunger. For many of us, experiencing the difficulties of COVID-19, especially at the very start when our workplaces were shut down, when there was talk of, this stimulus check, and there was talk of, this grant that you could apply for, and there's unemployment, and there was almost like a mad rush of concern about that. There was a fear that, how am I going to feed my family? How will we be able to survive if this pandemic continues, if there is a loss of income? And so we see that that fear of hunger is something that we can link to anxiety and can cause greater anxiety. We also see that the fear of hunger is linked to that first loss that Allah Azza wa Jal speaks to us, which is the loss of wealth. That, for many people, again, there's this sense of, am I going to get help from the government? And if I don't get help from the government, how am I going to, survive? How am I going to feed my family? And yet we're in the month of Ramadan, when we're able to see that, subhanallah, our bodies are so resilient that we can go for an entire day from, dawn until dusk, until from Fajr to Maghrib, without tasting food, without having that sustenance that we're used to, and that we can survive, and we can survive really well. So even though we're told that we will be tested with fear, that we'll be tested with hunger, we'll be tested with the loss of wealth, all of these aspects are elements that Allah Azza wa Jal reminds us that in patience, that it will be resolved. That in patience, there are glad tidings. So knowing that our rizq is written for us, that if it is written for us to receive that stimulus check, we will receive it. If it is written that we will have that a certain amount of sustenance, we will have that sustenance. And it doesn't matter if there are, thousands or millions of people trying to keep it away from us, we will still get it if it's written for us. And if it's not written for us, it doesn't matter if we fill out the best application and we follow all of the rules, we still won't get it. And so a part of coping through anxiety and uncertainty during these difficult times is turning back to Allah Azza wa Jal and seeking out what are those glad tidings. What is it that Allah Azza wa Jal kind of comforts our heart with throughout the Quran, to recognize that inshallah it is going to be okay. Now, along with the loss of wealth, Allah Azza wa Jal in that same verse in Surah Al-Baqarah in verse 155, He reminds us that there will also be a loss of lives. And this is maybe, for many of us, another very anxiety-inducing situation, the fear of illness, the fear of ourselves, getting ill, the fear of our loved ones getting ill. I know for many of us, this Ramadan is the first Ramadan in which we, didn't break our fast with our parents maybe on the first day of Ramadan, or with our in-laws on the first day of Ramadan. And that there's this physical distance. Why? Because we are afraid of for their lives, and that fear of experiencing the loss of lives. Allah Azza wa Jal tells us that that's part of the test. That knowing that that may be something that we're tested with, it's another element in which we are given glad tidings, though, that the one who has that sabr, that patience, and is able to say inna lillah wa inna ilayhi raji'un, that sabr in the first moment of the sadma, that is a person who, inshallah, will be elevated in the ranks in Jannah bi'iznillah. And so, coping with the uncertainty and the anxiety of the illness, the fear of death, and recognizing that, again, our dunya here is like a drop of water on the finger as compared to an entire ocean of our akhirah. Now, also in that verse, Allah Azza wa Jal reminds us that there will be a loss of fruits. Now, this loss of fruits can be seen in different ways. That, is it the tangible fruits? Allah speaks to us already about our hunger. He speaks of the loss of wealth, but the loss of fruits, our children can be described as a fruit of our a love, a fruit of our life. Our labor, we often hear that term, the fruits of labor, can be described in that terminology as well. So all of these elements of life that Allah Azza wa Jal is describing are parts of our everyday life that we are currently mourning in a certain way. That as much as we may, turn on our Zoom or scroll through our Facebook or our Twitter or our YouTube, and we'll see families in which, the mom and dad and the kids are all baking together, and they're making these beautiful Ramadan cookies, and we're barely able to get out of bed. Or we see communities in which people are coming together to do different service initiatives, and engage in with proper social distancing in different ways. And we may look at this and we may think like, why am I feeling so heavy? Why am I not able to function? All I can think about is my worry, my fear. Now, when we look at our community here in the West, we take a look at something that is known as value dimensions. And here in the West, we're considered a very high uncertainty avoidance culture, meaning that as much as we say, inshallah, God willing, when we say inshallah, we still want to have a plan. So, for many of us, we'll see memes like this that, growing up when you would tell your parents, oh, can I go here or can I do this? And they would say inshallah, and you feel like, okay, well, that's just another answer to no, or another synonym for no. But really, the term inshallah, God willing, denotes complete tawakkul. It denotes a giving over of your affairs to Allah Azza wa Jal. And for many of us, it's hard when we come from a high uncertainty avoidance culture to have that complete tawakkul, because the sense that we have is that I want to plan. I want to know when things are going to open up. I want to know when I can get on a flight and travel, because I have this conference or this is happening for work. I want to know when the children are going back to school. I want to know when the spouse is going back to work because I can't handle both of us being at home anymore. So we have this high level of uncertainty and we have this desire to resolve the uncertainty with firm knowledge. But when we look at the concept of insha'Allah, when we look at the understanding of tawakkul, it is truly being able to submit, being able to take our worries, our fears, our concerns, and to hand them over to Allah Azza wa Jal and say, I trust you. I trust you, O Allah, that things will open up when the time is right. Children will go back to school when you decree. Our work situation, it will improve, based on the decree of Allah Azza wa Jal. And it's that tawakkul that brings certainty back into the heart. It's that tawakkul that helps in terms of anxiety. Now, the next question that I often get when we talk about this subject is, well, how do I get that sense of tawakkul? I'm arguing all the time with my spouse. I'm fighting with my children, where nobody's getting along. Everything is just, everyone's very uneasy and on edge. And, add fasting to that. Now everybody's hangry as well. How do I get that sense of peace? So there are a few methods that are simple to practice, but often have a big impact. And they're considered mindfulness exercises or grounding techniques. And essentially, when we look at our deen, subhanAllah, our salah is a form of a grounding technique that actually exists 5 times a day to remind us of the importance of being mindful, of coming back to the present. So, for example, when we lift up our arms and we say Allahu Akbar, and we're essentially identifying in that moment that we are entering into conversation with Allah Azza wa Jal, and we are placing all the fear, the anxiety, the worry, the issues in our life, we are placing them behind us. We enter into a relationship of mindfulness with our Creator. And every time we fall in prostration and our forehead touches the ground, that compression point of connection with the ground is also another form of grounding technique or a mindfulness exercise. Now, in between our salahs, we may still experience anxiety, or the anxiety may affect us to the point where we feel like we can't even stand in salah because we have that unsettled feeling. We have that sense of not being able to connect or to be mindful in the moment. So, one technique that we recommend that is a helpful mindfulness technique, and I just switched to the list of questions where I see that there's a question about a practice that we can do for feeling anxiety, or you want to decrease the feeling immediately. This technique, it's a simple one. It takes a few minutes to conduct, but it's also very effective. It's known as the 5-4-3-2-1 method. And essentially, all it uses is your 5 senses. So we begin by looking around, whatever room you're in, kind of looking around and identifying 5 things you can see and really verbalizing the description of those 5 things. So, I see my couch in the corner. I see the brown table. I see the green of the tree. So identifying 5 things with your sight and verbalizing them. Then after that, it's going to be 4 things that you can touch. And remember, you want to utilize your pressure points to kind of stabilize the body. And essentially what you're doing is something known as synapsis. So you're breaking the train of thought, the negative train of thought that often accompanies anxiety, and you're almost stopping it. So you're doing like a little blip so that the brain is diverted from that train wreck, from the negative thoughts that accumulate when anxiety is an issue. So you're using four now touch points. So you might want to use your fingertips and push on the pressure and say, I feel my fingers touching one another. You might want to touch, a pen and say, I feel the metal on this pen, or I feel the hardness of this table. But use those pressure points to touch, and, maybe I feel the softness of my shirt, and identify what you're touching. Then at this point, you've slowed your brain down just enough to be able to take the deep breaths. And a lot of times with anxiety, people will just say, take deep breaths. But when you haven't interrupted the flow of thoughts enough to get your mind to grasp the concept of deep breaths, it's hard to do that. So now you've done the sight, you've looked at 5 items, you've done the touch, you've touched 4 elements. Now you're ready to take deep breaths. So you're inhaling, and in that process of inhalation, you are smelling what is around you. So it may be that, I am smelling the flowers outside because the window's open. I'm smelling the freshly cut grass. I'm smelling, the iftar that's baking in the oven. So identify 3 things that you can smell. Then at this point, you're ready to kind of sit in silence for a few seconds. And as you sit, you want to listen and identify what you hear. So I hear the car outside. I hear the footsteps on the stairs. And then this last one, which is very important, is being able to interrupt the thought process with taste. So you might want to take, some of my clients like warheads, those very sour candies, or Sour Patch Kids, some like a chili pepper or an ice cube. Put something on your tongue that can kind of jog that instinct, that it's something that's out of the ordinary, that again takes you out of the negative mind flow. So you place it on your tongue and allow that taste to be identified. So a chili pepper, a sour candy, a spicy mint, a piece of ice, something that'll kind of shift the senses again. Now, usually after completing this 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 method, you'll feel a greater sense of calm. And if your anxiety was at like a level 10, you may be able to bring it down to maybe like a 4 or a 5. And once you've gotten it to a place where it's a little bit more manageable, where you feel like, okay, like I've got this under control a little bit, then you can move further into mindfulness exercises, such as now, stepping outside and taking a walk, right? Taking a breather from your phone. This is another, we didn't get to talk a lot about this, but this device right here, it can increase anxiety greatly. It can also increase uncertainty. So as you're Googling, when is school opening up again? Or when are they going to open the stores? Or when can I take a flight? You're going to find almost an overwhelming amount of information online, and that can increase your uncertainty, not decrease it. So sometimes it's about taking a breather, designating a no devices time, just as we do for our children often, but implementing it for ourselves as well, where we put away all devices. And maybe we just sit in silence, and especially during the month of Ramadan, being able to just listen to a juz of the Quran, or recite with the reciter, read our juz just in silence, away from devices. That often helps with the anxiety as well. And there are a lot of other techniques that we can implement as well that can help. I think the first and most important point is to recognize that you're not alone. If you're feeling anxiety, if you're feeling uncertainty, if you're feeling fear, you're not alone. Even if your family members may not fully understand what you're going through, if they may say like, why are you being so lazy? Why won't you get out of bed? It's hard because for someone who hasn't experienced anxiety, it may be very difficult for them to understand what it means, like to feel that sense, to feel that heaviness and that difficulty to just function. Know you're not alone, though, that there are others experiencing this. Reach out to a counselor. Try to find a support group maybe that you can connect with others that also have tips and ideas. Don't kind of hide it inside and feel shameful about it. Anxiety, especially when we talk about clinical anxiety, it is an illness, and it's something that you can recover from, but it needs to be addressed. It can't just be ignored. So I see that we're coming towards the end of our time together, and I want to make sure that everyone has time to finish preparing their iftar. Take those last few minutes before the breaking of the fast to continue with their afkar, to kind of center the self, to be mindful in the practice of understanding what we're doing in terms of fasting, what we're experiencing in this pandemic, and really expressing gratitude, being able to be thankful and truly feel that gratefulness that despite the uncertainty, despite the fear, despite the difficulties that so many of us are experiencing, there's also great good, because Allah Azza wa Jal reminds us that inna ma'al usri yusra, that with every difficulty there is ease. So look for the moments of ease. Find what it is that brings you joy, even in these difficult times, and practice it. Practice it, practice it. So I pray that Allah Azza wa Jal eases the difficulty for all of us and all of Ummah Muhammad around the world, and that this Ramadan is a Ramadan to remember, as I'm sure it will be, because of our spiritual connection and our connection to one another through programs such as these.
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you so much, Sister Suzy, for joining us today. I really enjoyed, especially the physical touch aspects, the physical advice you gave us. I think this is all practical advice we can all use at home, especially when you're feeling overwhelmed. The house does feel crowded because everyone is home all the time, but alhamdulillah, I think we all are a little bit grateful that we get to spend more time with our family. Thank you so much for joining us today.
جزاكم الله خير. السلام عليكم.
Assalamu alaikum. Now I would like to introduce, actually, we're going to take like a 10-minute break. And at 7:40, we are going to be joined by Brother Tahir Latif, and he will be doing some general announcements, adhkar, and dua. Okay, so please take this time to gather your food, do some personal ibadah, and yeah, we'll see you guys back at 7:40. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I want to welcome everyone back to Breaking Fast with NIA. We have a couple announcements that we want to make before we get into the adhkar and a couple updates. The first announcement I want to make is that if you are driving a maroon Toyota All right, assalamu alaikum. Sorry about that. We had some technical difficulties, but we are back and good to go. So, what I want to say is, first of all, welcome back everyone to Breaking Fast with NIA. We have a few announcements we want to make first before we go into the adhkar. The first announcement I want to make is in regards to the drive-through iftar. Today we had our first drive-through iftar. Alhamdulillah, it was a very successful event. We gave out over 275 trays of food. I know there was a lot of people that weren't able to collect, so please look out on our social media and for updates. And we're going to be looking to do this more often as well in the upcoming weekends. And we'll make sure we increase the amount to allow everyone to be able to get. The next thing I'd like to say is that we want to make sure you save the date. Next Saturday, inshallah, May 9th, we have our annual NIA fundraising event. So make sure you look for the updates. You'll be able to log in and view right here. So just make sure you save the date, May 9th, and more details will follow. I also want to take the time to remind everyone to make sure that you join us at 9:20 today for Qari Adam Munshi. He'll be reciting. I'm sorry, Munshi. Yeah, he'll be reciting the 10th juz. So if you haven't had a chance to hear him recite, his recitation is very beautiful. So make sure you join again tonight at 9:20. And then the last thing, tomorrow, inshallah, we'll have Brother Kaiser Aslam, the Muslim chaplain at Rutgers University. He'll be joining us to break fast with Breaking Fast with NIA. So just a few of those things. So make sure you keep up to date. So we're gonna go ahead and get right into it with the adhkar. So we're gonna go through the same adhkar we do every night. We want to make sure you guys, everyone, is following along and saying it at home as well. So we'll start with the first one. Bismillah. أمسينا على فطرة الإسلام وعلى كلمة الإخلاص وعلى دين نبينا محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وعلى ملة أبينا إبراهيم حنيفا وما كان من المشركين. We have entered the morning upon the true religion of Islam and upon the testification of purity of worship and upon the religion of our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and upon the way of our forefather Ibrahim, who is upon the true religion, worshipping Allah alone. And he was not from those who associate with Allah. So we'll say it one more time and then we'll move to the next one. أمسينا على فطرة الإسلام وعلى كلمة الإخلاص وعلى دين نبينا محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وعلى ملة أبينا إبراهيم حنيفا وما كان من المشركين. Next one. رضيت بالله ربا وبالإسلام دينا وبمحمد صلى الله عليه وسلم نبيا ورسولا. One more time. رضيت بالله ربا وبالإسلام دينا وبمحمد صلى الله عليه وسلم نبيا ورسولا. I am pleased and satisfied with Allah as my Lord, Islam as my religion, and Muhammad as my prophet. Next. Allahumma anta rabbi la ilaha illa ant khalaqtani wa ana abduk wa ana ala ahdika wa wa'dika mastata' a'udhu bika min sharri ma sana' abu'u laka bi ni'matika alay wa abu'u bi dhanbi faghfirli fa innahu la yaghfiru dhunuba illa ant. O Allah, you are my Lord. None has the right to be worshipped but you. You created me, and I am your slave, and I am faithful to my covenant and my promise as far as I am able. I seek your refuge from the evil of what I have done, and I acknowledge before you all the favors that you have bestowed upon me. And I confess all my sins to you, so forgive me, since none can forgive sins except for you. One more time. Make sure if you can read along, please read along. Allahumma anta rabbi la ilaha illa ant khalaqtani wa ana abduk wa ana ala ahdika wa wa'dika mastata' a'udhu bika min sharri ma sana' abu'u laka bi ni'matika alay wa abu'u bi dhanbi faghfirli fa innahu la yaghfiru dhunuba illa ant. Next. Subhanallah wa bihamdihi adada khalqihi wa rida nafsihi wa zinata arshihi wa midada kalimati. I declare Allah free of all imperfections, and all praises is for Him as such as the number of His creation, and as He Himself is pleased with, and as much as the weight of His throne, and as plentiful as His words. One more time. Subhanallahi wa bihamdihi adada khalqihi wa rida nafsihi wa zinata arshihi wa midada kalimati. Next. Bismillahi alladhi la yadurru ma'a ismihi shay'un fil ardi wa la fis sama' wa huwa as-sami'ul 'alim. With the name of Allah, he whose name is such that when it is mentioned, nothing in the earth or the heavens can cause harm, and He is the all-hearing, all-knowing. One more time. Bismillahilladhi la yadurru ma'asmihi shay'un fil ardi wa la fis sama' wa huwa as-sami'ul 'alim. Next. Allahumma inni a'udhu bika min al-hammi wal-hazan wa a'udhu bika min al-ajzi wal-kasal wa a'udhu bika min al-jubni wal-bukhl wa a'udhu bika min ghalabati ad-dayn wa kahri rijal. O Allah, I seek refuge with you from anxiety and sorrow, from weakness and laziness, from miserliness and cowardice, and the burden of debts, and from being overpowered by people. One more time. Allahumma inni a'udhu bika min al-hammi wal-hazan wa a'udhu bika min al-ajzi wal-kasal wa a'udhu bika min al-jubni wal-bukhl wa a'udhu bika min ghalabati ad-dayn wa kahri rijal. Okay, next. Allahumma afini fi badni, Allahumma afini fi sam'i, Allahumma afini fi basri, la ilaha illa ant. O Allah, grant health to my body. O Allah, grant health to my hearing. O Allah, grant health to my sight. One more time. Allahumma afini fi badni. Allahumma afini fi sam'i. Allahumma afini fi basri. La ilaha illa ant. Next. Ya Hayyu Ya Qayyum برحمتك أستغيث أصلح لي شأني كله ولا تكلني إلى نفسي طرفة عين. O ever living one, O self-subsisting sustainer of everything, by your mercy I beseech you, rectify all of my affairs and do not entrust me to my own self for the blink of an eye. Ya Hayyu Ya Qayyum برحمتك أستغيث أصلح لي شأني كله ولا تكلني نفسي طرفة عين. Next one. The dua of Prophet Yunus. لا إله إلا أنت سبحانك إني كنت من الظالمين. There are none worthy of worship besides you. Glorified are you. Surely I am among the wrongdoers. One more time. لا إله إلا أنت سبحانك إني كنت من الظالمين. And then the next. أعوذ بكلمات الله التامات من شر ما خلق. I seek refuge in the perfect words of Allah from the evil of what He created. أعوذ بكلمات الله التامات من شر ما خلق. And then the next. ربنا ربي إني ظلمت نفسي فاغفر لي. One more time. ربي إني ظلمت نفسي فاغفر لي. My Lord, indeed I have wronged myself, so forgive me. ربي إني ظلمت نفسي فاغفر لي. And now we're going to recite Surah Falaq and Surah Nas, so if you can please read along as well. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قل أعوذ برب الفلق من شر ما خلق ومن شر غاسق إذا وقب ومن شر النفاثات في العقد ومن شر حاسد إذا حسد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قل أعوذ برب الناس مالك الناس إله الناس من شر الوسواس الخناس الذي يوسوس في صدور الناس من الجنة والناس. So now we have 3 minutes or 2 minutes until iftar. So if everyone can please take some time, make some personal dua, make some dua for our community, for everyone in your family and everyone who's sick, and then all the Muslims as well. So, and then we'll come back and break our fast. Inshallah, it's time to break fast. Bismillah. ذهب الظما وابتلت العروق وثبت الأجر. Inshallah. Bismillah. Ugh. So much easier talking with water. I'd like to thank you all for joining us with Breaking Fast with NIA. And if you can please make sure you join us again today at 9:20 for the recitation of the 10th juz. Jazakallah khair and Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.